Jeremy, why don't we start talking about multifamily here?
For sure.
As August and I were in the business of acquiring multifamily assets in the US. Why don't you let our viewers know and ourselves know what interested you in about multifamily?
Yeah, sure. So, I've been investing in multifamily. So the one thing I should have mentioned before, I'm like hyper diversified. I'm in over 60 LLCs. I've been in over 100 easily over time. And I've been in over 30 sales in the last 3-4 years. And because I do it full time, I'm in so many things. Multifamily is probably one of my top favorite 4 asset classes for the next 10 years for what I do. And then I look for more predictable cash flow. So as long as you're investing in really high demand, high growth areas, right, where everything kind of lines up correctly and the price makes sense, I just see demand continuing with the right manager managing the building for that type of asset class. So when I think of predictable cash flow, one of the assets that comes to mind is multifamily for me. And I have been investing in multifamily probably since 2008, I would think. I actually started in a couple of different asset classes and eventually migrated into others, and had some great success in multifamily. And there's a few things I love about multifamily. One is that you get a lot of tenant diversification. So in the buildings that I typically target, I normally target somewhere between 100 and 400 units for my investment. And I specifically target 100 units or more because I'm a huge fan of diversification to help reduce risk, right? So you can get all of that going into a decently sized opportunity. And if one person doesn't pay rent or moves out or is a problem, then it's not going to really put a big dent into your cash flow, which is a fantastic thing for someone like me. And look, everyone needs a place to live, right? And that's not going to change anytime soon. Nothing's going to disrupt that. I actually invest in mobile home parks as well. So, I capture someone who really has to go down to that level or wants to be in an individual unit versus being in a building. But the bottom line is that multifamily is just there's going to be demand in it for a long time in the right area. And that presents the possibility of getting that predictable cash flow. There's a lot of different aspects I like about multifamily. It's really easy to find more deals because there's so many multifamily buildings in the US that the volume of access to deals is really helpful because it allows you to actually sift through a lot more to become picky, right? So if I want to invest in a self-storage opportunity in the US, which I also do, there's probably, you can imagine how many self-storage buildings are there for every multifamily building? Probably, the ratio is like maybe 1,000 to 1. I don't even know, right? But that means there's literally 1,000 more opportunities to find an apartment building than a self-storage building. And for an investor like me who wants to be picky, that makes it better for me because I can actually be much more picky in what I'm investing in, right? Which is important to someone like me. So there's a ton of benefits to multifamily, and not the least of which, as you can tell right now during this pandemic, as we're reporting this in February of 2021, it's been very obvious that the US government and the Canadian governments have supported housing and supported people being able to stay in their houses. And this is one of those components. In the US, and I can't speak to Canada, I'm sorry, but in the US, I know that even state and local governments have been providing rent subsidies to tenants that can't afford to pay. That's on top of everything else that's been going on with eviction moratoriums and everything else. So there's been a lot of support for even landlords in that space indirectly like that. And so anyway, I keep going on, but it's definitely a great asset class.